On today's show, the LA Clippers have signed Kai Jones. Yes, the Clippers have actually signed someone, waiving Josh Primo and signing Kai Jones. Going to be reacting to that. Updates on Kawhi Leonard's status for the upcoming war that is ready to ensue. And speaking of that war, going to be talking about the X Factor and the upcoming plans this week on this channel for the big time round 3 between the Clippers and the Mavericks. Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Playoff Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and in my 19th season as a Clipper fan, or should I say just finished my 19th regular season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod, and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I'll be posting playoff previews for damn near every series and even more Clipper content throughout the postseason on my own channel. And of course, Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell if you haven't, and comment your thoughts on the signing of Kai Jones. Also, do me a favor and go visit the Locked On Mavs channel. Nick from Locked On Mavs has been sending his Raccoon squad, his Mavs fans over here to comment Go Mavs. So I need you to go remind those Dallas fans and the people in Locked On Mavs who actually won the series in 2020 and 2021, because I've seen some weird stuff on the internet lately about that the Mavericks actually beat us. Last I checked, if my NBA history research serves me correctly, we've never lost the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs, ever. We've actually beaten them twice, 2020 and 2021, with this rendition of the team. Before we talk about all that good stuff, this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the greatest board game ever invented. But now you can play it by just going on the App Store and downloading Monopoly Go, which is free on the App Store or Google Play Store, to start playing Monopoly mobilely. Is mobilely even a word? I just made up a word. Okay, now let's talk about what's important. The Clippers have signed Kai Jones. Now, I can't lie. The first thing I thought of when we signed Kai Jones was that account in the comments every single day. Shout out to you, Marcia Aaron. I don't know if you're an actual girl named Marcia, but this Marcia Aaron account, I have to give them a shout out because they've been commenting about Kai Jones the entire season. Every single episode, they comment about how the Clippers need Kai Jones in their rotation. And all of a sudden, the Clippers signed Kai Jones right before the playoffs. Now, I just want to say, waiving Josh Primo. I'm very in support of this, but I really just don't understand why the Clippers signed Josh Primo in the first place. If they were never going to play him, what was he, insurance for James Harden or Westbrook getting hurt? Because we saw them get hurt, and we had Bones Allen and Xavier Moon over him in the rotation. Why did we sign a guy with a horrible history in terms of off the court, just a suspect history, just a bad PR move, and we weren't going to play him? I mean, Lawrence Frank and the general manager, like the management, the front office, they have failed on the margins. One of the reasons why the Clippers fell into the 4th seed after being number 1 for a second is because we overplayed the same 9 or 10 guys. We didn't have other guys in the rotation that we trusted to play consistent minutes, and therefore we burned out a lot of our main guys. Josh Primo, Xavier Moon, even Brandon Boston before the last month or so of the season. A lot of these guys, Kobe Brown, Jordan Miller, Moussa Diabate, these guys didn't get a lick of playing time. So, you have 5 or 6 guys on the roster that are not being used at all. You had James Harden playing heavy minutes. You had Kawhi and Paul George playing heavy minutes. So, eventually it took its toll. So, I'm very happy that we waived Josh Primo. We weren't going to use him. It was a terrible PR move. Got rid of him. I wish him the best in the future. Kai Jones comes into the situation, and I'm thinking to myself, Why the heck are we making a signing this late in the season? They say we're signing him to a multi-year contract. Now, the terms of that contract have not yet been released. I looked for them and I can't see anything. But maybe by the time this episode is released, there are some details about it. I personally don't think Kai Jones is going to play in the playoffs. I don't think a guy who has played a total of 67 NBA games for a horrendous Charlotte Hornets team. Although, mind you, the first year that he was on the Hornets, they did, I believe, make the play-in game. Yeah, they did. They finished 43-39. And if I'm not mistaken, they lost to the Indiana Pacers in the play-in. So I guess he had some decent, or he had some minutes for a decent team. The main memory I have of Kai Jones is the way he went off against us in the Summer League, catching lobs and throwing down some crazy dunks. But the one thing Kai Jones offers is crazy athleticism, which we lack. And he did technically shoot 50% from three his rookie season, but it was on 0.1 three-point attempts per game. So I don't know how much you can gauge that. And then the following season, he shot 21% on 0.4 attempts a game. So a guy who hasn't played real minutes, real meaningful minutes in the NBA necessarily, is not going to waltz into a playoff rotation. I truly just don't understand the timing of the signing. It's very peculiar to me. Is he going to be a piece for next year? You know, it's interesting. The Clippers, they feel as though they're like this rejuvenation center where they take a chance on these guys that other teams don't want, that have been neglected, and or that don't have many people bidding for them, and they plan on rejuvenating them and turn their careers around. It really started with Nicholas Batum. Well, Reggie Jackson, really. He was bought out by the Detroit Pistons. Nobody really wanted him. Paul George said, bring in my friend Reggie. We did. He ended up becoming a cult hero and a fan favorite. So that one worked out really well. And then Nicholas Batum worked out amazing. You know, the Charlotte Hornets had talked trash about his bad contract for so long. They were saying he was washed. I fully thought he was washed. He ended up having a renaissance and being such a fan favorite as well. And then you had guys like Isaiah Hartenstein who worked out. But then, and Russell Westbrook, who, you know, there's a big controversy about that, about which teams wanted him in Chicago, Miami, whatnot. But let's put it this way. The market wasn't too high. I don't think it would have been crazy bidding. And we ended up getting Russell Westbrook when a lot of people were saying that he couldn't contribute to a winning team again. And then obviously James Harden, the market was so slim for a player of his caliber. Then you got a guy like John Wall. That one really didn't work out. So most of the time we hit on these. We'll see what happens with Kai Jones. Josh Primo, that nothing really happened there. Daniel Tice has been a rejuvenation station kind of thing. And he was huge when Mason Plumlee went down. So Kai Jones is officially a Clipper. Congrats, Marcia Aaron. My takeaway, though, is that he's not going to play in the playoffs. This next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking the same thing this week. I am very nervous about this series. One, because I think it's going to be really hard to beat Luka Doncic 3 times. And 2, because I'm very terrified about Kawhi Leonard's status. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Just visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. It's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft live on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. the Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time. Streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Clippers, I forgot to even mention that I was at the last regular season home game for the Clippers at Staples Center. It was a bittersweet, emotional moment, and it was interesting because I talked to so many fans. You can see what they said on my channel in my latest video, but I talked to so many fans, and throughout the season, so many people have been talking about, I can't wait to leave this dump, which, again, they would never have called it a dump before we got a new stadium because it's not a dump, but it's actually it's not even one of the older stadiums. The Staples Center is only about 25 years old, so that's not that old for a basketball stadium. Although it is in need of some renovations. The seats are getting a little bit old. But I will say this. Throughout the season, so many Clipper fans have been trashing it, saying, ready to leave. I can't wait to be out of here. But all of a sudden, on Sunday, there was so much sentimentality about leaving and how everybody was like, man, it's kind of crazy because we have the best memories in our franchise history here. This is where we've gone from being a poverty franchise that was the worst in the NBA to being a successful franchise that's made the playoffs for 11 out of the last 13 seasons. And the 2 seasons we missed the playoffs, we still won 42 games. I mean, the Clippers have changed everything around in that building. We have had all our series wins in that building. We broke the curse in that building. And obviously, for all of us Clipper fans that have attended games regularly throughout the years, we have some amazing memories with people that we love in that building. And that all matters. That absolutely matters. So the game itself was insignificant. I want to give a shout out to former Clipper Boban. We love you, Boban. Missing the free throw intentionally to give everybody the free Chick-fil-A sandwich that we do in the fourth quarter. For those that don't know, if you miss 2 free throws in the fourth quarter as the opposing team at Clipper games, everybody gets a free Chick-fil-A sandwich. And you know what's funny about that? It's happened so many times this season, and I actually do frequent Chick-fil-A, and I have never redeemed my coupon, which is really stupid. So something I got to do, take advantage of the Clippers doing good things for your boy in the community, giving us some good eats for free. But let's talk about, so the Clippers ended the season 51-31. So we ended the season with a couple of L's, lost to Utah, lost to Houston. So the Clippers finished the season tied for the 6th best record in Clipper history at 51-31. The 5th best record comes from the 2016 Clippers with a 53-29 record. And then you had the 4th best record being, actually, I think we were tied for 5th because the top record is 57-25 from the 2014 Clips. Then you had a two-way tie for second and third. A tie for second, with the second and third best records being 56-26 Clips from 2015 and 2013. And then 53-29 was the 4th best record in 2015-16. And then, of course, now we have tied for the 5th best record in Clipper history. So we'll take that. But all that matters is the playoffs, right? And let's get an update on Kawhi. So Adrian Wojnarowski went on NBA Countdown and said that there's always a mystery, or I'm not quoting him, I'm paraphrasing, saying that there's always a mystery around Kawhi Leonard and his injuries, whether or not the injury is more serious or severe than the Clippers are letting on, which we've seen in the past. But he said, I am told that's not the case this time, and there's not too much concern about Kawhi, missing significant time and whatnot. But he did say it's right knee inflammation, that everything he's heard is that that's exactly what it is. And I'm going to tell you now, Clipper Nation, from everything that I've heard, the Clippers are not lying to you. There really is right knee inflammation. There really is swelling in his knee. It's not a serious injury that they're lying to us about, but his status for the first game and the first 2 games are uncertain. And that's extremely concerning. Now, Chris Broussard, who you can throw tomatoes at, and he has every right to be Chris Broussard on this channel because of the Clippers are out. The Clippers are out. I think it's a done deal. The Clippers just to the Lakers and the Raptors now. Well, guess what, Chris Broussard? 5 years later, I'm still talking about Kawhi Leonard, the Clipper. Sadly, I haven't seen Kawhi Leonard the Clipper play a playoff game in front of my own two eyes though yet. And all of a sudden, after I've been knocking on wood all year, thinking this is the one, 68 games healthy, we are now 6 days before the opening game of the playoffs. We got home court advantage. Kawhi's played at an all-NBA level, and we're talking about he might not play in the first game. Chris Broussard said that he has heard from someone within the Clippers that the swelling is not going down, and there's real concern. And that caused a bunch of Clipper fans on Twitter to say, Chris Broussard, he's been wrong before. I'm going to believe Woj over Chris Broussard. Here's the thing, though. People took Woj saying not concerned and spun it to try to make themselves feel better. If you actually listen to what Woj said, he was saying that there is knee inflammation. The point that he was saying was not concerned or not one of those times where it's super severe. He was saying that the Clippers are not lying or hiding something. There's no certainty he's going to play the first game. And this is where I tell you guys the bad news. And maybe it's not that serious, but Chris Broussard, if he was the only person that was saying that he heard swelling and that this is potentially concerning, I would dismiss him right away. But I will have you know, between you and I, that I've heard from 3 different other people that there really is swelling and that we don't know if Kawhi's going to play. So Chris Broussard's not lying, from what I know. Maybe it's the same source, and maybe the same source is not correct. But I don't know. Whenever I hear things with that many different sources of confirmation, I usually tend to believe it. So I'm not telling you that Kawhi is going to miss a game. I'm just telling you that don't be surprised if he misses the first game. I'm telling you that right now. Don't be surprised. The knee, I don't know. I'm not a knee doctor. I'm not sure how this stuff works. So the swelling, he's always had problems with his knee. He's had surgery on the knee. But all of a sudden, after the whole season, it's swelling uncontrollably. Like, I just don't know how this is going. I don't know how this happened. It's so mysterious. It still is mysterious. But I'm letting you know that from everything I've been hearing, it is knee inflammation. It is not an injury that they're lying about. But I'm nervous. I'm extremely terrified because if we don't have Kawhi, we've got no chance. Now, we might be able to win a game without Kawhi. Some people think the Clippers can actually push the series without him. I don't know about that. I have enough doubts with Kawhi. Without him, our defense has been so garbage without Kawhi Leonard this season. So garbage. And then offensively, you're just missing your best player. You're putting your fate into the hands of James Harden and Paul George and Westbrook. And as good as those guys are, I don't know about this time around. So Kawhi's status is uncertain. And you will be hearing more as more updates are released. But coming up, I'm going to be ending it off by talking about the X factor for the series, whether Kawhi plays a game or not. Going to be talking about that coming up. I've been told I'm a competitive person. And if you know anything about me, you know that's extremely true. I don't like to lose, and I love to compete. So I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play Store. All right, Clippers, Mavericks, we officially have the date of Game 1. It will be on Sunday, and I cannot tell you how blessed I am and thankful that it's not on Saturday because now I get to coach my 2 teams that I coach on weekends. Sunday, I am free to be all out invested in that game. And of course, I will be there no matter what. So you better believe if you see me at the game, come up and say what's good. And by the way, I have been meeting so many listeners lately at the games, almost two every single game at least. And it's the most humbling feeling in the world. As I said in one of the previous episodes recently, I always forget how big the audience really is. I always think of the people in the comment section, but I forget and underestimate how many people are just listening and never comment at all. So I appreciate all you guys so very much. This is it, the big time, and we're almost ready to go. Now, the X factor for me. Let's say Kawhi Leonard is out a game. Well, there's a very obvious, thing that needs to happen, and that's that Paul George and James Harden need to be awesome. If Kawhi Leonard does not play, we need Paul George to be the best version of himself. Attacking the basket, catching the ball in the mid-post, not a bunch of, dancing at the top of the key, throwing up contested jumpers. He needs to be sharp and efficient with his movement and aggressive and locked in on defense, which I'm not too worried about. James Harden has to be creating advantages. He has to be getting to the basket. He has to be putting the Mavericks defense in rotation and finding open shots for our guys. And, of course, scoring himself, taking the catch and shoot three that we saw him take more in the run when we were playing the best basketball of any team in the league. Being more aggressive going to the basket. So all those things will play a factor. But the X factor for me without Kawhi is Russ. Because when you get a great Russell Westbrook, there are so many different ways he can affect the game. And we saw earlier this season, even though you can't take anything from the regular season matchups against Dallas this season because that was pre-trades for Dallas. And the first time we played them, that was when we hadn't even put Westbrook on the bench yet. We had figured nothing out. So you got to throw those three matchups in the trash. But I will say this. Russell Westbrook showed something in that game that we played against the Mavericks in LA that I was at. And that was that not only can he do some good things guarding Luka, but he can go at Luka as well. And I actually think this series is a good one for Russ. I think the Mavericks don't love playing against speed, even though they're playing at a faster pace this season. I think transition defense-wise, they're whatever. Russ can push that pace. He can challenge the rim and really make Daniel Gafford prove himself as a rim protector. If they go small with Maxi Kleber or PJ Washington at the 5 or 4, that also is somebody that Russell Westbrook can potentially attack at the rim. So that'll be interesting, seeing where he can make an impact defensively, because we're going to need defense in this series, perimeter defense. And when Russ has been engaged this season, it's been something. And then his rebounding, his offensive rebounding, his cutting. We'll see how much that plays a factor. But if we don't have Kawhi, I think we're going to need every bit of it. Now, if we do have Kawhi, the X factor is undoubtedly, for me, James Harden. Because he was really the difference. If we want to cut the chit-chat, the real difference between the Clippers when they were rolling and when they weren't is James Harden, mainly. He was creating advantages every time down the court. He was getting us good shots in pick and roll. He was knocking down the three, shooting amazing percentages from the foul line, field and three. He was playing like an all-star. He was arguably our second-best player for that stretch for 2.5 months. And towards the end of the season, he looked slower, wasn't turning the corner the same way. But thankfully, the last 2 weeks or so, he started to look a little better. And part of that was with the games that Kawhi missed. It forced him to be more aggressive and look to get his shot back. And it looked like he was starting to get the three ball back a bit. So that makes me a little optimistic going into this series. I also want to give a fun fact that James Harden has not lost a first-round series since 2015-16. And he's participated in the playoffs every year of his career. So he basically has a 7-year first-round winning streak right now. So that'll be put to the test. However, this is by far the toughest first-round matchup he has had since he lost. In 2017, he played the Thunder that had Westbrook averaging a triple-double, and their second-best player was like Victor Oladipo. That team, he was easily the favorite. 2018, they played the Jazz. As solid as Utah was, they had upset the Thunder, and the Rockets were in the number 1 seed. So, actually, no, I'm wrong on that. They played the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round in 2018, and that was... The Timberwolves were actually a pretty good team that year with Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler had gotten injured and they dropped in the standings to like 8. And of course, they were not going to beat the experienced championship or bust Houston Rockets, who that's probably the best single season team that James Harden's played for. And this Clipper team should be better. You can argue that Brooklyn team may have had a higher ceiling, but that Rockets team proved the most. in my opinion, of any team that Harden's played for. Although you could go back to the Thunder in 2012, but, we're talking about James Harden as the star. 2018 Rockets were a very, very, very good team on both ends of the floor. Had great defensive personnel around him. I just hated the way they played basketball because I hated Mike D'Antoni and thought he made Harden unwatchable for me for times. Even though I still obviously watched every playoff game he played, I didn't enjoy watching it. I don't like watching Mike D'Antoni basketball. But in 2019, they played Utah. That's where I got confused. So they were favored in that series as well. 2020, he played the Thunder with Chris Paul, SGA, and Dennis Schroeder. They were favored as well with Russ. And then 2021, the Nets played against the Celtics without Jaylen Brown. And then 2022, the Sixers played against the Toronto Raptors. And then last year against the Nets post-Kyrie KD trade. So those first-round matchups, Harden's been favored in every single one. This one, it's 50-50. Some people are picking the Clippers. Some are picking the Mavs. Vegas is picking the Mavs now because I think that's the uncertainty involving Kawhi. But this is going to be a tough first-round series. It's going to be like a second-round quality series. And James Harden's the X factor for me. He needs to be creating advantages because let's say Kawhi does play. Of course, there's going to be a lot of switching and a lot of different matchups, but primarily to start the game, you're going to see P.J. Washington guarding Kawhi and Derrick Jones Jr. probably guarding Paul, which means that Kyrie Irving is guarding James or Luka, probably Kyrie. And James needs to take advantage of that. There's that James Harden-Kyrie Irving matchup. They played with each other in Brooklyn. One of the main reasons James Harden requested a trade was because of the vaccination situation and the way the Nets organization was handling that, and Kyrie was handling that. So, and James admitted that. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any beef there. And I don't mean personal beef. I mean like a fire to want to beat the other that stretches beyond just, I want to win this series for my team. It'll be interesting to see that. But James Harden, to me, is the X factor. He needs to create good offense. I don't have a statistical target line for him, but if he averages 18-plus points, I think we're in a good spot. 20 would be fantastic. But he needs to just be aggressive, looking to take guys off the bounce, looking to mismatch hunt, and turning the corner with some burst, taking the catch-and-shoot threes, and playing the defense that we saw in December and November, or late November and December and January, and early February, not March and April. We'll see what we get. On this week of Locked On Clippers, you'll be getting a 2-part blockbuster episode with Nick from Locked On Mavs previewing the series and bonus to that. So we went over almost everything in those episodes. There's only one thing I forgot to mention, and I'll mention it in future episodes in terms of what I mean by it. But Zubac could start the series guarding Derrick Jones Jr. or guard him at times instead of Gafford to keep him out of the pick and roll, which you've seen at times, rare times. Ty Lue has done that. But we'll talk about the more strategy components of the series throughout this week. It's all Mavericks Clippers from this point forward to the end of the week. Till the series starts, I should say. So Wednesday and Thursday, you're getting stuff. And Friday, it's going to be just you and me talking Clippers Mavs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more previews on every series. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. We're almost there. The age-old proverb continues, and pray for Kawhi. Go Clippers.